This is ridiculous. Only a wimp would be hiding under a bed.
Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that Hyperia was scary. After all, it's in an area called Fearless Valley, and the concept of the ride is about finding your fearless.
Fastest, most weightless roller coaster in the UK.
It's also 236 feet tall at its highest point and reaches top speeds of 81 miles an hour. But is it actually that scary? So I'm going to take you through the ride, step by step, using Thorpe Park's very own front row POV video, and talk about each aspect of the ride that people find scary, and hopefully, by the end of the video, you will be fearless enough to get on Hyperia and realise that it's not actually that scary. Okay, so it is a bit more scary than flying fish, but you get my point. Before I do go on to help you find your fearless, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell and keep your eyes open for further videos. It's really, really appreciated. Now, before we even start talking about the elements of the ride that cause the fear, I thought it would be a good place to start about the things that people are scared of before they even get on the ride. I guess the best place to start is with, of course, that very, very daunting looking lift hill. It's 236 foot at the top of it, and it's visible from all over the park. So it's the first part of Hyperia that most people really get to see. But should you be daunted by it? That lift hill only forms a very small part of the ride, and I can say from personal experience that the climb to the top of that lift hill is actually very quick. It's one of the quickest lift hills I've ever experienced, and you don't have to look down. The lift hill is set up in such a way that you can't see down unless you look sort of over to the side and down. Most people won't particularly want to do. I guess the next thing we have to talk about, and it's something that's been talked about with other roller coasters as well, like Sick over at Flamingo Land, and of course Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, is the fact that it is lap bars only. I was always very put off by any roller coaster that was lap bars only, including ones that didn't actually go upside down. Lap bars that are designed for roller coasters like Hyperia are actually incredibly safe, whilst also very liberating. Lap bars only roller coasters are just as safe as any other type of roller coaster. And that's coming from me, who is absolutely hot on feeling secure on a roller coaster because of my anxieties. So, we've overcome the daunting look of the ride itself. We have taken in and processed that it's a lap bar only roller coaster, got to the station, and we're on the ride. If you're like me, part of your anxiety and your fear of these things comes from not knowing what's coming. And this is where Thorpe Park have stepped in and provided a really useful tool for people like me who need to know what is going to come. This is Thorpe Park's front row on-ride POV video. I'm going to play it through and then we'll talk about it element by element. What to expect, what they're likely to make you feel, hopefully alleviate fears that you have with regards to the different parts of the ride. So what that POV doesn't contain, of course, is the first section coming out of the station and round to the lift hill, which is, of course, a quite heavily banked turn. Now, the great thing about that heavily banked turn, and that worked really well for me, it gives you the opportunity to test those lap bar restraints to see just how secure they are, because the train does lean quite heavily to the left as it banks around the U-bend, and it helped me feel really secure actually before we went on to do other elements of the ride. The next part of the ride, of course, is the lift hill that we've discussed. As you can see from this POV, it does cut it a little bit short, but the ascent is actually very quick, not really giving you enough time to fully comprehend just how high you are before you're there. That very quick lift hill is actually a blessing. I guess the next major source of fear for most people is, of course, that vertical drop and twist. And yes, from the ground, it does look incredibly daunting, and I'm not going to lie, as you come over the crest of the lift hill, it also looks and feels very daunting, but it is also over very, very quickly. That's the key to a lot of the elements of Hyperia, is that they are over actually very quickly. They're long enough for you to acknowledge and enjoy them, and I promise you will enjoy, but the ones that aren't so great or that you might not enjoy so much are actually over very quickly. So the first, of course, element is, as I've said, the drop twist, which also gives us our first lot of airtime, and it does generate a lot of airtime. You will feel like you're lifted out of your seat, because you are, but you are very securely held in place by those lap bars, you aren't going anywhere, and as I say, it lasts merely seconds before you are back down and into more conventional roller coaster elements. Hyperia is referred to as an airtime machine because you do spend 14.8 seconds of the ride literally out of your seat. So if you do feel yourself lifting out of your seat, you are meant to. That is what the ride is designed to do. There is no way that those restraints are letting you go anywhere. If you do experience a lot of airtime, it doesn't mean that the restraint hasn't been fastened correctly or enough. They are designed to allow movement for you to be able to experience the airtime, which is a large part of the ride. For me personally, after the lift hill and that initial drop, there were only really two other parts of Hyperia that generated fear in me, and they were the dive, which is a very, very slow upside down section which comes over. You are upside down for quite a long time, and it does feel like the train is moving incredibly slowly, and in fact it feels like it's crawling. I personally enjoy being upside down on roller coasters. It's one of my favourite elements of a roller coaster. So for me, that element was great. But I do understand that there are a lot of people out there that don't, and actually probably avoid roller coasters that do invert for that reason. But please rest assured, it's a very enjoyable experience. It's a very floaty experience. The other part of the roller coaster, which for me generated some fear, was the very heavily outer-banked U-turn element, which is so heavily banked to the left that if you are sat on the left of the train, actually feels like you're going upside down. You aren't actually upside down, but it is so heavily banked to the left that it feels like it. Again, those restraints are so safe and so secure. You aren't going anywhere. Actually, for me, one of the most enjoyable elements of the ride, and it does make sitting on the left-hand side very worthwhile. A lot of people will tell you that the right-hand side is the best. For me, because of that element, I think sitting on the left just edges it for me. The rest of the ride is all just very floaty, and that's one of the key elements of Hyperia. You don't feel insane forces against you a lot of the time. It just feels like you're sort of floating and gliding around, a bit like Swarm. So there's no need to be worried that you're going to be hit with forceful impact like Stealth will give you. Hyperia doesn't generate those kind of forces. We do have to bear in mind that it is designed to be very accessible to a larger group of people, hence the 1.3 meter height restriction and the fact that it doesn't have those insane G-forces. Nonetheless, it's still very enjoyable, and of course, there is some G-forces involved. The one other thing that I've forgotten to mention up till now, which some people may find important, is of course the speed of Hyperia. It is the fastest roller coaster in the UK, but I've got to be honest and say, it doesn't feel like it. You may well be bombing round at 81 miles an hour over certain elements of the ride, but it just never feels like that. It just feels so smooth and gliding that you just don't ever really acknowledge how fast you are really travelling. I don't think I can say much more about Hyperia. As roller coasters go, while the appearance of it is very daunting, I would argue that it's actually a lot less scary than some of the other rides that I've done during my journey of conquering my fears. Off the top of my head, the lift hill on Odyssey up at Fantasy Island is far scarier, it's slower, and you can see right through it, which is very daunting. Trust me, when you're scared of heights like I am. Stealth is a lot more forceful, the launch on stealth. I would say as far as actual force and those kind of elements that generally create a lot of fear on roller coasters are concerned, Hyperia isn't like that. It's been designed to be enjoyable, exciting, a little bit scary, because a lot of enjoyment is generated from fear and overcoming that fear. And that's about it. Hopefully this video has helped you overcome your fear and you will be able to walk into Fearless Valley, queue up, get into that station, climb aboard Hyperia and enjoy what is, in my opinion, the best roller coaster in the UK by far. It's worth beating your fear to get on it. It's called Fearless Valley because they want you to conquer your fear. It's all set up to encourage you and to help you conquer your fears. And trust me, Hyperia will do that. And you will get off that ride feeling incredibly accomplished. And so you should. You've just tackled the UK's tallest and fastest roller coaster. As I say, that's pretty much all I've got to say, other than preparation is often key to beating fears of these rides. Watch the POVs, watch people's videos, especially mine, and get to know the ride before you try and tackle it. And I can honestly tell you, it does help. It really, really does help. And one other thing that I would never recommend doing on a ride like Hyperia is closing your eyes. It actually makes the ride scarier. Eyes open, guys. And hands up. That's it from me. Thank you for watching this video. If it has helped you to find your Fearless and ride Hyperia, please leave me a like, leave me a comment about your story of finding your Fearless on Hyperia. I would love to hear them. And I'll see you in a video soon. Bye for now.